Welcome! You will now learn about AWS CloudFormation. The cloud opens up many possibilities. However, it also raises questions about how to manage its power and flexibility. For example, how do you update servers that are already deployed into a production environment? Or how do you consistently deploy an infrastructure to multiple regions? There are several ways you can implement automated and repeatable deployments. With AWS CloudFormation, you define a single template file, either written in JSON or YAML. This template file creates a collection of AWS resources together as a single logical unit. We'll discuss how CloudFormation works and how to use it to create and manage your AWS resource deployments. With AWS CloudFormation, you create and provision AWS infrastructure deployments predictably and repeatedly. You can use AWS CloudFormation on services like EC2, Amazon EBS, Amazon S3, and many others. You use a template file to create or delete collections of resources, managed as a single unit known as a stack. If for any reason something changes outside of AWS CloudFormation, you can use drift detection to identify which stack resources have configuration changes made outside of AWS CloudFormation management. Then, you can update the resources so that your stack is synchronized with their definitions in the stack template. Resolving drift helps ensure the consistency of your infrastructure and the success of your stack operations. Two major terms for AWS CloudFormation are templates and stacks. A template is a specification of the AWS resources to be provisioned. A stack is a collection of AWS resources that were created from a template. You can provision a stack many times. When you provision a stack, charges incurred from using these services start accruing when these service resources are created. When a stack is deleted, the order of deletion is determined by AWS CloudFormation. You do not have direct control over the order of when resources are deleted. The most important section of the CloudFormation template is the Resources section. The Resources section is a required section of the template. This section contains the AWS objects you will create. You can create resources across a number of AWS services, including Amazon EC2, Amazon S3, Amazon VPC, and many others. You can specify relationships and dependencies between resources to help ensure that resources are created in the correct order. You can deploy applications, files, and other resources on your EC2 instances with the CloudFormation init command. The init command is similar to the user data section of the EC2 launch mechanism. It enables you to deploy EC2 instances as part of the stack creation process. The wait condition is a special AWS CloudFormation resource that pauses the creation of the stack and waits for a signal before it continues. You can use a wait condition to coordinate creation of resources with other configuration actions and external stack creation procedures. Parameters is an optional section of the template. They are name-value pairs that represent input values. These values are then used in the stack creation process. Mappings is another optional section of the template. They represent keys associated with values that specify conditional input parameters. You can use mappings to refer to the values of AMI IDs in a region. This is because AMI IDs change from region to region. They also change over time when new AMIs are released. Mappings can also be used with other resource IDs that change from region to region, such as EC2 key pairs, subnet IDs, and Amazon EBS snapshot IDs. With mappings, you can repair the values that could potentially break if you run the template in a different region than where it was created. Outputs is an optional section of the template. The output section returns string values created by the template that might be important to users. For example, say that you created an EC2 instance that functions as a public web server. You can choose to output the DNS name of the server in the output section. AWS CloudFormation Designer is a visual tool for creating and modifying CloudFormation templates through a drag-and-drop interface. You can add, modify, or remove resources. The underlying JSON or YAML is updated automatically. If you modify a template associated with a stack, you can update the stack so that it conforms to the template. If you encounter an error when you launch an AWS CloudFormation template, all resources are rolled back by default. You can change this option from the command line. AWS CloudFormation is designed so that all stack resources are created or deleted appropriately. Because CloudFormation treats the stack resources as a single unit, they must all be created or deleted successfully. Otherwise, a rollback takes place. Stack creation or deletion is treated in an all or nothing fashion. You can preserve an EBS volume by setting its delete on termination attribute to false. You can preserve a resource by setting its deletion policy attribute to retain. Some resources might not be deleted when a stack is deleted, such as an S3 bucket. You can also optionally enable termination protection on a stack to prevent all resources from being deleted. You can use the optional parameters section to customize your templates. You can use parameters to input custom values to your template each time you create or update. Here's a parameter with the logical name VPC-CIDR. The logical name must be unique throughout the entire template. Here are the data types supported by AWS CloudFormation parameters. There are also parameter types specific to AWS. These parameters can be useful. For more details, search for Parameters Section Structure in the AWS documentation. After you define a parameter in the template, you can reference it by using the ref intrinsic function. When you use ref, AWS CloudFormation uses the parameter's value to provision the stack. You can reference parameters from the Resources and Outputs section of the same template. Here's an example that defines a parameter named keyPairName. Later, this parameter is referenced in the Resources section of the AWS CloudFormation template. In this case, the data type of the parameter is AWS EC2 keyPair keyname. When you decide you want to create a stack from this template, the AWS Management Console renders a drop-down list with all the key pairs in the account. You must select a key pair from this list before you create the stack. Sometimes you might want to refer to a specific value in a list. In these cases, you can use the fnSelect intrinsic function in the Resources section of your template. fnSelect returns a single object from a list of objects by index. In the example, the first value stored in the list of available AZs will be returned. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.